the quest to be the best. While many aspire to reach the top spot, it's a goal few can achieve. With their legacy assured, the Kenyon College men's swim team now strives not just to win, but to find pride, honor, and a commitment to excellence in every performance. They are the Lords of the Water.
What time is it? Swim time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time!
Hi everybody, I'm Craig Hummer. Longevity in any sport is rare, so when a true dynasty comes along, it's worth noting. In the history of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or commonly known as the NCAA, no school has won national championships with the success rate of Kenyon College. The women's swim team won their 20th title this past year, and the men's swim team, well, quite frankly, they set a standard that may never be equaled. 25 consecutive years at the top. For a quarter of a century, they have ruled the pool. Now let's think about that for a second. The last time they lost, Jimmy Carter was president, and most of America was watching the Love Boat. This is a story of a team that is saturated with winning traditions, but the question remains, how has a tiny school in the middle of Ohio with only 1,500 students managed to hold on to the top spot in the nation for over 2 decades?
Kenyon's tradition of swimming goes back actually to 1938, when the Schaefer Pool, which looked like a greenhouse and was quite a piece of work, was built.
Schaefer was indeed the wellspring, but the true legend of their current greatness began in the 1950s with Tom Edwards, a coach who demanded only one thing from his charges.
Commitment. Naturally, it wasn't something that was going to be done in a half-hearted way. Persons that were interested in swimming had to dedicate themselves to stepping up, to becoming better, to form the team, and to develop some kind of loyalty to the whole enterprise of swimming, and to take pride in what they're doing. The success of Kenyon swimming began in the 1953-54 year, and it was almost by coincidence that a good handful of swimmers appeared in the freshman class and changed the complexion of Kenyon swimming.
Edwards, like those before him, treated Schaefer like hallowed ground.
It was unique. There's never a pool that was built like Schaefer. It was built in 1937 as Kenyon's first athletic building. Before it was an old hall that was used for basketball and gymnasium. And it was unique in that it was from the outside appeared to be a greenhouse because the entire roof and the gables was glass. And it provided a delightful interior, being able to swim, and as the students say, they could swim backstroke in the winter and see the snowfall, and they have provided a lot of light. And those were the good parts of it. The downside is that it wasn't heated very well. It got a lot of algae in the summer. It would get hot, as greenhouses do, and it can get cold in the winter.
Temperature fluctuations aside, there was no denying the pool had a mystique, and that feeling rubbed off on Kenyon swimmers.
Schaefer Pool is like something that I've never seen before. I mean, I still have a picture of it up on the wall in my house. There was something magical about the place. The water was just, it was different than the water of any pool I've ever swum in before. It was fast water. There was something about the building where time was changed. It wasn't that I was faster, the clocks were slower.
The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, a winning tradition and an aura of excellence, all taking part in a building revered by its inhabitants. The only thing missing was a catalyst, a progressive lightning rod that could propel the team to new heights. It was the 70s, change was everywhere, and in 1975, the planets aligned when Kenyon went looking for a new coach.
One application was from a young graduate student at Miami University who was there simply to help with assisting of the coaching. And his father from Mansfield encouraged him to apply. And he said, I wouldn't have a chance at that. Well, he did. The good part of the story is that I think we recognized, at least I did and Jim Steen, a fervor for swimming and a curiosity and an intensity that I didn't detect in anyone else.
When Coach Steen took over, he was stepping into a tradition which on a local level had been strong. Kenyon was known for swimming, and known to some degree nationally for swimming even then. But he, being the focused and ambitious man that he was, reconfigured the program to go on a national level.
Jim Steen, the man who started coaching as a teenager, now stepped into a collegiate scenario where he had to walk a fine line, pay homage to the past, but plan for the future.
And I remember coming in very aware of the tradition, but also somewhat ambitious and eager to see if we could take it a step further. It was a challenge that I knew I had to handle very carefully, and it was one that was made easier because when I came in as a freshman, I came in with a group of freshmen who were very intrigued with the idea of seeing if they could perform at their best at the national championships as opposed to the conference. And I actually started with that group and got them together, and after the season, after my very first season, I said, look, you guys, if we could perform at a higher level at the national championships, would you be willing to hold back a little bit of conference? And they said, oh, Coach, that's a no-brainer.
And it was the bait that was out in front. We can do this. We can aspire to it. If we win the conference every year, we can be the best in the nation.
I think he's just an incredibly unique motivator. You know, he's sort of like a Vince Lombardi kind of thing, or even Herb Brooks, you know, was a consummate motivator for those guys. And I think that Jim is the same way.
He's as much a motivator as he is an actual coach, and that's where you dig deeper into yourself and you find a better performance. And it's the kind of coaching that affects you in all areas of life, not just swimming.
The closest analogy out there I can think of is Phil Jackson. I think he's a lot like Phil Jackson, not only in stature and the way they look and that kind of thing, but in the way that he can just get into people's minds and motivate them.
He's very adaptive.
You just swim a smart race, you swim your race, and I think you're going to walk out of here feeling good going into conference.
He is completely able to adjust to the individuals that he gets every year. Obviously, every single person has different traits and characteristics, and he has a way to get into their persona, their way of working, their way of competing, and find out the best way to get them to rise to the next level.
At 6'6", 220 pounds, anyone who has crossed Steen's path knows that he leaves an impression, but those impressions are as varied as the individuals themselves.
My first interaction was, you know, it was just, he was nuts. You know, he was real excited and he'd talk really fast and he'd get worked up and he would sort of have these flight of ideas, but I'm just like looking at him, you know, going, well, he must know what he's doing.
He could sell you the Brooklyn Bridge and you'll buy it.
Coach is a very special guy. I've never met anyone like him. He is cutting edge. He is always pushing the envelope for what's new, what's out there. Trying to find your buttons and push you the right way and trying to get more out of you.
He's a little bit of an odd duck. He's definitely passionate about what he does. He's somewhat of a man-child in the sense that he is so excitable, and I think he translates that and projects that on his swimmers to the point that they soak it up.
Coach is a great man. He's an enigma. He's part David Letterman, part Vince Lombardi, and 100% coach man.
No matter what the interpretation, there's no denying Steen's dedication.
His passion and his hobby and his job are the same thing.
He's been the catalyst or the driving force in this whole thing. He's just an incredible motivator and leader.
My feeling is when you're in his presence, you want to be on his team. You know, there's just something about him that has so much enthusiasm, such attractive power. He has a kind of, the overused term is charisma. And I think that stems from the passion that he has for the sport, for his athletes, for the college.
He's more interested in the college and in the welfare of his students than he is about his welfare. So I find that interesting.
you can't tell me any other coach who's done as well as my dad is, because I've seen it. I've seen the hours that he gives up to the team. I've seen, you know, part of his personal life that he gives up to the team. I just don't believe that there's someone who gives more of themselves to any one team, and it's a great achievement.
Steen has kept his approach simple in an attempt to grasp hold of his holy grail.
Hooray! We win! Tigers! Hot damn!
I would think that there are two things that drive me. One simple one, performance. And the second one the second factor that probably drives me is the notion that one year I might get it right. You always sort of dream of that time when you'll have perfection, and you're never going to achieve it, but I think there's that desire to see if you can't get everybody coming together at precisely the right moment with precisely the right attitude. And we've come close. We've come as close as anybody. So I suppose I should be satisfied with that, but I just think you're going to achieve some sort of a competitive nirvana if you can just bring everybody together and they reach this fever pitch at just the right moment.
As a young coach, Steen needed a prodigy to help illustrate the potential of the program.
There were generations of swimmers in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s who all contributed to that culture that we've come to appreciate at Kenyon, but none so much as Tim Bridgham. Tim, as coming in as a freshman, and myself as a freshman coach, were the perfect matchup in many ways. He was eager to test the waters. He was a risk taker, and it's almost a shame that he wasn't a part of a national championship team. He took us up the ladder, and then he graduated and passed the baton on to others.
Kenyon College is not for everyone. The town itself has one bank, one bookstore, and is only a mile long. Now, although the numbers are few, there are those that come here and do not excel. But for the majority, what gives Kenyon's success in the swimming pool even more relevance is the success the swimmers enjoy in the classroom as well.
I see the swim team as really sort of epitomizing what are in some ways classical values. You know, the Latin tagline is mens sana in corpore sano, a healthy mind and a healthy body. And in many ways, I think Coach Steen's coaching is about that, as well as the sort of, the reason I think of it as an epic story is it's so clearly about realizing your potential, pushing yourself, trying to see how strong you can be, how much you can accomplish.
It goes back to the old Greek ideal of strong mind, strong body, and I think that Kenyon really embodies that pretty well.
It comes down to coach. He has structured this program in such a way that you can put equal emphasis on swimming and equal emphasis on academics, and as a result, you can succeed in both.
I don't know of one swimmer that came to Kenyon because of swimming. Swimming was important and it augmented, but I think that the decisions to come to Kenyon was made on the basis of the college and what the college had to offer in the way of a four-year liberal arts education.
The Kenyon swim team and its tradition is just kind of a kernel of what Kenyon has to offer.
I guess from my perspective, I want to see students that are involved. I want to see students that have an involvement. You want to see them engaged in virtually everything that they're doing. So when they are running into a dry spell in swimming, they have a couple of other things to fall back on. And striking a balance, keeping your motivation and your competitive edge in swimming and surfing the swells of college life is a bit of a challenge. I never would have expected this to be a matchup for me when I came here 28 years ago. And when I came here, I literally thought, what a beautiful institution. I've never lived in a village before, but it'll be a good place to hang out for 4 or 5 years. You know, build this team up and then move on.
For his part, Steen has acted more or less as a prism, fine-tuning the energies that already exist in his swimmers.
We were a group of incredibly highly motivated people who not only were motivated in the water, but motivated in everything that we did. and the expectation that you would produce in the classroom was just sort of a given. So you take this raw material on one end and you bring people out the other side who are people who know they can do anything. You know, they know they have the tools both physically and intellectually to go on and do anything they want in the world. And I think what Kenyon does is it doesn't program that into people. What it does is it allows it to come out.
I think it taught me that I can do whatever I want to do, and it's just whether you're willing to work hard enough to get it. I think that's one thing that you learn in Kenyon swimming and at Kenyon College is you really have to be an active participant in your success.
I remember as a freshman, you come into this bigger than life place and you just believe that you can do anything. I saw all these people succeeding and you want to be part of that, and then you believe that you can be part of that.
Camaraderie is common in most sports, but at Kenyon, it seems to have taken on a life of its own.
More than anything, it's sort of a brotherhood. It's a collection of individuals that came together as a team from radically different backgrounds in many respects, and somehow year after year, this collection always seems to perform at its peak.
I dove in, fully shaved for the first time I'd ever really rested and tapered and shaved, and I was afraid to take a stroke. Because I was afraid if I stroked, I was going to fly out of the water and crash into the wall at the other end of the pool and kill myself, because I felt so fast.
To me, it's a bonding that you get through going through sets that you think you can never do. The pain that you go through and the brotherhood that you share in those pools during those times will stick with you for the rest of your life.
The Kenyon swimming bond is unique. I don't know that I've ever experienced that or even seen it in any other aspect of my life.
It's been the source of some of my greatest memories, my best friendships, and perhaps some of the best lessons in life, if you will.
The Kenyon swimming reminds me so much of a family. It just amasses more and more people as time goes on.
Ironically, as the family has grown, so has the competition. Kenyon has produced not just great swimmers, but great coaches. In particular, Greg Perini, Kenyon class of '82, now the coach at Denison University, along with John Howell, who graduated Kenyon in 1990 and is the current head coach at Emory University. Their task? To elevate their programs at the expense of their alma mater. But one of Steen's many strengths has always been his uncanny ability to adapt and stay a step ahead of the competition, no matter who they are.
Jim Steen is not only good, successful, he's the best swimming coach in the United States, bar none.
I'm not really thinking of it as a streak so much as he's thinking of each year as a separate endeavor, and that they've really, Coach Steen does a real good job in trying to reject the complacency that comes along with success.
Perhaps the most unusual that Jim Steen has not only done this with the men's swimming, but he's done it also with women with almost equal success.
In fact, this past year, Ashley Jo Rowett was awarded the most coveted honor in the NCAA. She was the first Division III athlete ever to be named the Woman of the Year.
It was a phenomenal experience to be there and watch that ceremony and then have her most eloquently thank her professors foremost for the chance to get the award.
We're very proud of Ashley, and the pride that we have for Ashley brings to mind the pride we have in so many who have achieved, and Ashley certainly did herself and this institution and her family credit, but she also did every individual who's ever achieved at Kenyon great credit. And I think when I was at that banquet and had the chance to see Ashley nominated as one of the 10 finalists for Woman of the Year and then ultimately become the Woman of the Year, I just thought to myself, in a very proprietary way, how many Women of the Year we have here, and the good fortune I've had to work with them.
Steen has indeed worked with more than his fair share of great athletes, but more important to him is that he has helped shape great individuals in and out of the water.
He was a great motivator. He was somebody that wanted to see you excel in every aspect of your life, and he was going to be there to support you 100%, as long as you we're there to support the team equally.
If you look in the NCAA, you really cannot find any other coaches that have put together the type of success that Jim has put together. I think it's a great marriage between the college, the environment that Kenyon offers, and then the unique individual.
The people that swim at Kenyon come in with a certain amount of whether they know it or not, this innate desire to be great, to achieve what they can achieve. You know, it's funny, I meet other Kenyon swimmers and we're all incredibly different, but we're all the same. You know, we're all out doing something in the world that makes us happy and that we're successful at it.
Kenyon's record in the pool may have given them an excuse to take things for granted, but complacency is exactly what Steen's teams lack. Their titles this year were as enthusiastically pursued as their first.
Coach has said time and time again, and will always remark that he'd much rather lose NCAAs and have an epic battle in doing so than to win in mediocre fashion. It's not really about the streak as much as it is about achievement. And oddly enough, I think as much as the rest of the swimming world will look fondly upon that day because somebody finally broke through, I think Coach will be happy about it too, because it'll give him another ring to reach for. As opposed to being on top, he'll be the underdog once and for all, and he'll be able to come back fighting.
I don't care about the streak. I've said it many times, we're overstreaked at Kenyon. We had a women's conference streak and a men's conference streak and a women's national streak and a men's national streak. And you add up all those numbers and you've got an old man. So the streak itself, I become less and less involved with that. What really is important is separating yourself at some level from what has gone on before you. Okay, certainly we're proud of what's taken place before us, but there's some point you have to sort of give up the past to sort of gain the present.
Like a true artist, living in the moment is what Steen does best. Swimming has been his muse, allowing him to sell his vision to those around him.
My father used to always say that Jim should be in sales. And my answer to him was, he is. He's always selling something. He's selling Kenyon. He's selling the idea that someone can surpass goals that they had or that they hadn't even dreamed of.
If you can sell people on spending 4 hours in pain a day, 8 months a year, for 4 years, while you're in college and all this other phantasmagorical funsy stuff is going on, and you can do that for nothing but the glory of it, and the glory comes once a year and lasts 2 days, that's salesmanship.
Steen's aquatic stock exchange has been delivering dividends year after year. So what about when he's gone?
I think Kenya's going to have a great future, in this sport, and will continue to have it. It's really been successful through a number of outstanding coaches, from Tom Edwards to Dick Russell to Dick Sloan, right on up the line, and it will probably continue.
Kenyon's competitors hope not, but for now, the Lords of the Water are at 25 and counting.